Welcome to a weird and strange video. Now, this one comes about because I was researching or searching for information in the Library of Congress recently, and some other random things popped up while I was searching for a particular target. Ultimately, I went through 40 or 50,000 pages of copyright registrations, indexes, all sorts of access points into the archive in search of that one thing which I really wanted to determine for a feature that would have been available for the full channel, but I failed. I did not find what I was looking for, and I'll probably still do a feature around that topic, but it was really disappointing because it's one of those things that I was looking for which was fact-based. It was, date-related. And it wasn't so much to disprove someone else's opinion on the matter, but simply to find out the truth, or as close to the truth as one can ever get. There are always degrees of separation between what you read on a document or what you read in typed form, the evidence, and with what actually happened, because it seems in anything in life that even a minute later than something happens, the perspective of what has happened has already changed. But we're not here to talk about that side of things. Going through the indexes of the Library of Congress, I first stumbled on this batch of copyright registrations. Now, they come from, I think it's December 16th, 1977. These were all submitted as a package, each receiving individual registrations. And they were Alive, the crowd scene from the inner sleeve of Alive 2, Kiss in Blood, the Hotter Than Hell artwork, Destroyer cover painting, Dressed to Kill, the photographic design, Alive 2 album, The Rhinestones from 1973, that's a weird one because of the date, and Love Gun and Rock and Roll Over. So that proved to be the starting point because each one of them had the individual registration numbers referenced in that index. So I wanted just to dig into some of those and see if there was any useful information that could be garnered from them. And I'm not sure if it was, but they're still cool to see the original registrations rather than the photocopies. For instance, the Rhinestones registration has circulated for quite a few years, and it clearly alludes to the first album cover with the rhinestone design. Another index just does list Joel Brodsky, the photographer, who was involved in the shot, obviously. But the date of publication for this of November the 8th, 1973 is so completely wrong in terms of anything related with that first album. That's closer to the signage of the original Rocksteady contract with Casablanca, because, of course, Kiss did not sign with Casablanca directly at the beginning. They signed with Aucoin Management Rocksteady, and Rocksteady signed the production deal with the record label, as was common back in the day. Again, there's whole topics around that I'm not going to go into. So, again, I don't know where that November the 8th date comes from. Some have referenced it as having some greater meaning, but I really don't believe that to be the case. I believe this one to be an error, and as we'll find with other registrations, that errors do crop into this video, and I'm just going to not focus too much in on any one of these. I'm just scrolling down each one of the documents. You can see just the end there, the signage. Moving on to the artwork for this, or at least I think it may be. We'll see in a second. This was under the Warner Brothers, I believe. We'll see what the date is as it scrolls down a bit more. So the February the 12th date. This is the original Warner Brothers related copyright registration for the debut album. What makes it interesting is that this was submitted on March the 20th, 1974, so it's very close to whatever that original date is. Anyone who's been a fan long enough knows that people have debated that release date. It's ranged from the 8th to the 18th. The promo sheet on the test pressing suggested that it would be released in late January, and it seems to get people very upset. I did a whole video on it, which may now need revision, but there you go. That's what we do. We always try and find new information. So this was included in a batch of Warner Brothers registrations from the period. So again, they would submit them all around the same time for a bunch of releases from around the same time. So just do all the paperwork in one shot. So it's using the Warner address, February the 12th. Interesting. We're going to have to do some more digging on that, but that's the earliest reference now for a release in paperwork. Moving on into November the 27th, a second batch of Casablanca registrations are done. Now, these include all the MBLP, so independent releases, and they included Fanny, Rock and Roll Survivor. I think Danny Cox was in there. Kiss, the debut, is re-registered, and Hotter Than Hell is included as well. What's very interesting is for some of the other releases that had been through the Warner deal is that they used their MBLP prefixes, but the Kiss one doesn't. It uses NB9001, so presumably this is the version of the album that includes Kissin' Time incorporated into the track listing. There they have their Sherborne Drive address. And now the date of release changes to the more familiar February the 8th. But this is many months after the fact. So which one is accurate? The first one? The second one? Are both wrong? These are the mysteries. Here's the Hotter Than Hell one again, typed at the same time, so it's using the same typewriter ink, or the ink has faded. And sequentially, these numbers are all within a batch number, so this shows us that Hotter Than Hell was released on October the 22nd, 1974, which I don't think is new information. And moving on, we now move into Class K. Now, just a quick differentiation between the two sorts of forms that we're looking here. Number one, Class K, which is about to scroll by, and I think the rhinestones apply to that. Class K includes merchandise, print, or label, so the non-musical components of an album packaging within the context of these registrations. So it could be the cover art, an inner sleeve design, and other elements into which the album is packaged. Class N, which are the actual musical copyrights, I think there's definitely further documentation for those because the index files do provide, quite a lot of additional detail, including track listings. So there would have been other pages to those. Had I gone and pulled the full files while using digital compilations of the original form scan, then I might have gotten more information. But to be honest, I'm not in any rush to go to Washington, D.C. to look at paperwork again. So at least I know the numbers. All right, so let's continue on for Hotter Than Hell. So this is, of course, Class K, so it is the jacket design. On the rest of the forms, the artist and photographers are credited individually for the contribution. So here the release date matches up with the album's release date, which is pretty good because, again, this was in all the artwork is from that December 16th, 1977 date. So, hey, we got a match with Hotter Than Hell. All right, Dressed to Kill. The original copyright for musical registration for the album. And we still have the Sherborne Drive address. And the date is March the 20th, 1975. That's an anomaly. Give or take a day, I don't think it's going to matter. The artwork, again, submitted in December 77, obviously by the Sunset Boulevard address changing. Peter Corriston, of course, from that index file at the beginning, was the photographer or the designer. Bob Groom was the photographer. And here the date changes to March the 19th. So again, that's another anomaly cropping up. So now we've got the first album with two potential release dates on official documentation. Dressed to Kill, the third album, on the same. This is gratuitous. This was the only single registration that I've located yet. And this is, of course, the second single from the Dressed to Kill album. But at least it gives us a potential release date for that single. And again, a lot of those have been listed all over the place, and I don't know the veracity of that information, but here we get July the 3rd, 1975. This one was canceled eventually because it was deemed that there was no basis for an additional registration. Then The Mighty Alive. The Alive musical copyright is actually very interesting. Apart from the date, you see now that the address of Casablanca Records, they've moved to Sunset Boulevard. But here we go, September the 11th, 1975. And that's kind of notable. The other page of the registration, I haven't included both in this because it's going to be long-winded enough as it is. But this application was submitted on August the 9th. They weren't done recording Kiss Alive at that time or working on it in the studio. The audio copies, they had to submit 2 copies of said work along with their application, was sent in on September the 19th. So it's just interesting that they were filing for copyright before having the final fixed form of that, particularly when it's clear as well that the application may not list the actual release date if they're filing it on August the 9th, but listing September the 11th as the release date. So again, just another factor that does point to how things could change. If they're doing their applications in advance of the actual release date, then the release date could shift for one reason or another. And at that time, Neil Bogart was basically having a go to Vegas to get bankroll, so who knows what could have happened. All right, continuing on. There aren't a lot of additional notes that are included in these applications, hence why I've only done the first page. So the artwork, the artwork index is actually more useful than this form of what is available, because it does list all of the individual photographers who contributed to the booklet that was included in Kiss Alive. So again, this is just the album design. Dennis Wilk gets a lot of mentions in these. September the 10th now is the release date. So which one do we use?
Choose one!
Your guess is as good as mine, but this is Kiss Nerd Shit. Registration for Destroyer. Mark Anthony Kaye's favorite Kiss album. And this one is another March release date. March the 19th, 1976. And this was filed March the 25th. So this paperwork was filed after the release of the album, one way or another. And the artwork that goes with it did, of course, credit Ken Kelly for the illustration on the cover. And I don't think it's specifically noted the designer of the Kiss Army logo on the inner sleeve. But now the release date has changed to the 15th of March. Oh, by the way, the world's going to continue turning through all this. Dates are dates. It's irrelevant, but it's interesting. Here's the copyright registration for the music on Rock and Roll Over, my favorite Kiss album. Or my favorite non-live Kiss album, should I say. November the 1st, 1976 is listed as the release date. This paperwork was filed on November the 12th. So again, very close to the actual date that is specified. Let's see if the artwork registration matches up. And it doesn't separately specify the logo design on the inner sleeve, so I think that's Willock. So November the 1st. All right, we've got a match. Rock and Roll Over was indeed released on November the 1st, 1976. Or was it? Moving on to something else that I've been working on recently, which, you'll see soon enough. The release date of this album has always caused some debates. It's been listed as June the 30th, but it's actually released June the 17th, so the middle of the month. It was already appearing in ads all over the place in the middle of the month, so 17th is it. But why would there have been confusion with the 30th? Well, primarily because of it being released in conjunction with the first Marvel Kiss comic, but also the application for that copyright registration of the music was submitted on June the 30th. So just interesting little other dates come in that maybe explain why certain things happened. So the fantastic Ken Kelly artwork was registered separately, of course, June the 17th. Okay, we have consistency. That's wonderful. Not one of my favorite Kiss albums. It's a bit too polished. But some very, very good songs on it nonetheless. All right, so Kiss in Blood. That's the inner sleeve. And we're going to see an error. Ooh, October 24th, 1977. Someone got their inner sleeves backwards, because that should be June the 17th for the Love Gun album. So they've clearly simply mixed up the Alive 2 and Love Gun inner sleeves. And here's Alive 2, the music again. Nothing specified in any of the notes that were readable on the pages in in the file that I found for the new material versus previously released songs in live format. So October the 27th. Well, the other one was October the 24th. All right, that's another anomaly. How will I make it through the day? And then we get the Kiss Alive 2 album cover. What date is going to be on this one? So rather exciting. October the 24th. Okay, 2 October the 24th and 1 October the 27th. All right, majority wins October the 24th. Or is it? And that's the crowd scene that was referenced erroneously in the Love Gun registration. And here's the crowd scene now. Sleeve for record. June the 17th. All right, so Love Gun is consistent across the board for June the 17th, but they got the inner sleeve registrations backwards. Well, there you go. That is the classic era. I mean, once you get into double platinum, well, I didn't get into double platinum. There's only so much I could take. Going through 40, 50,000 pages of this crap really is rather painful. Especially when you consider that I didn't find what I was looking for. But there we go. Maybe in the future, because there was an old saying, may all your dreams except one come true, because everyone needs to have something left to dream for. Now, if you're still awake, go back to bed. Thanks for joining me.